today's video, we're doing the third and final seasonal model roundup today. Going to get all models together. We've got 9 of them, can you believe? 9 seasonal models. Going to get them all together, see what they're showing for the winter of 2013-2014. Try to build up a consensus if it's possible. It may not be possible, but whatever they're showing, we're going to get it all together. Eventually, it will all go into a pot for next week's final and official GavsWeatherVids.com Winter 13-14 forecast. That's going to be the big one next week. So this is all building up to that, all the roundups that we've been doing, looking at sea surface temperature anomalies, solar activity, Siberian snow cover. It's all been building up to next week's final forecast, and this is going to play a big part in what eventually goes into that final forecast when I have to make a prediction for Gavs Weather Vids for the coming winter. Now, before I get on with the video, I just want to talk about the advertising. There's video ads on my page at GavsWeatherVids.com. The video ad here on my homepage sits at just above this weather video. If you hit play on the video ad, you'll be supporting GavsWeatherVids.com. Thanks so much for doing that. You don't necessarily have to sit and watch the whole thing all the way through. Just hit play. That'll be enough to support Gavs Weather Vids. Thanks so much for doing that. Also, Gavs Shop is open, so if you want to do any Christmas shopping between now and Christmas, just click through the Amazon banners in Gavs Shop. You'll go through to Amazon. You do your Christmas shopping as normal on Amazon, but because you've clicked from Gavs Weather Vids to Amazon, that's the key, because it gives Gavs Weather Vids a royalty on anything that you purchase. These things do make a big difference to the website. It allows me to have the website. It pays the website, so it allows me to sit here talking to you via the website. So it's a means to an end, and thanks so much for getting involved. As I say, it does make a big difference. So better get on with things. We've got 9 models to look at. Should be 10, but the Russian model is missing this month. The website for the Russian Meteorological Agency is down, or the link that I've got to it isn't working anyway. So unfortunately, we haven't got Russian model. That would have taken us up to 10, but we have got 9 other models. So let's get on with it. And the first model we're going to look at is NASA. Now, I didn't know NASA had a seasonal model, but it was tweeted to me from one of my followers, Sam. Sam, I'm sure you're watching today. Thanks so much for tweeting me the NASA model, and it's going into the video, so you are playing your part in the seasonal forecast. Thanks very much, Sam. So this is the latest 500 millibar height anomaly from the NASA model for the winter. And very interesting, we've got above average heights here over Scandinavia, quite an anomalous area of above average heights as well. Also got above average heights sitting in the Atlantic, just off the coast of Eastern America. We've got below average heights, low pressure up over Greenland. So potentially that's quite a cold scenario. You could envisage that we'd be getting easterly winds coming in around that area of high pressure over Scandinavia. Although the one snag is that we're sending a reach down into the southeast of Europe. So that could potentially give us more in way of southeasterly winds, perhaps, as opposed to easterly. Nevertheless, that is quite extensive blocking up there over Scandinavia, and it is quite interesting to see the NASA model is predicting that. In terms of the temperature forecast, a temperature anomaly forecast, sorry, I should say, for the winter. This is December to February. It's seen warmer than average in the east and the northeast of Europe, above average temperatures. For us, we're over here on the map, we're actually near normal. And that's possibly because we're getting some easterly flows coming around that area of high pressure. It's difficult to say what is producing that anomaly, but certainly very interesting anyway. We've got that blocking up over Scandinavia being predicted by the NASA model. The precipitation anomaly, well, I don't think the model has a signal, actually. Again, this is British Artist here. We're normal with precipitation in the white coast, but then so is the whole of Eurasia, and that can't be right. There will be some areas coming out wetter than average, some areas coming out drier than average. So as is often the case with long-range seasonal models, I don't think the NASA model has a forecast. It has a signal for precipitation this winter. But nevertheless, very interesting that NASA is seeing above average heights, a Scandinavian high, up over Scandinavia. By the way, we're dealing with all the American products first of all. So that was NASA. This is CFS version 2. This is another model from the United States. This one is from NOAA, the official forecasting agency of the United States. These are 700 millibar heights, just a very slightly different area in the atmosphere to the 500 millibar height idea. And this is very obvious what's going on here. It's below average heights, blue colours sitting around and to the north and the northwest of British Isles, with above average heights, high pressure, sitting to the south and to the southwest. So very clear what's going on there. We're bringing the jet stream through something like that. That's a very unsettled, zonal, westerly type winter. There's Scandinavia, by the way. Notice there is no high pressure up there, no anomalous area of high pressure, unlike the NASA model. So very obviously the CFS version 2 model, and this is quite a big flip on what was going on earlier in the autumn when it was producing quite a lot of blocking. The CFS version 2 model is now seeing a very westerly, Atlantic dominated winter with high pressure to the Azores, ridging in Spain, and low pressure around Iceland and to the north of Scotland. So you'll expect a mild winter with a westerly flow, and that is indeed what the NASA model is predicting, what the CFS version 2 model, I should say, is predicting for this winter. The warmest anomalies are actually in the east, but virtually the whole of Europe is average to mild. The British Isles, perhaps in the cooler category, actually, we're not quite in those orange colours, but generally that's a mild winter being signalled across Europe. We've got a strong westerly wind blowing through. Precipitation for the winter, well, you would expect it to be wetter than average for Northern Europe. It is indeed wetter than average there. Across much of British Isles, much of France, Germany, the Low Countries, yep, a westerly winter, very much being signalled by CFS version 2, would be mild, windy, with lots of bouts of rain coming through. So that's a pretty depressing, those are pretty depressing charts from the CFS version 2 model if you want a cold winter. But of course that's a big change on what was happening earlier on in the autumn. In September it's shown a lot of blocking, so there's nothing to say but we can't get a flip as we go through the winter. We can't at least reverse that to some degree as we go through the winter. Now, the next model I want to look at is that from Hugues van den Duve. This is a little bit different. These are analogues based on sea surface temperature anomalies. So this hasn't actually come from a generic computer model, unlike NASA and CFS version 2. This has been drawn up, I think, by Hugues himself, or certainly people who work in Hugues' department. They've looked at sea surface temperature anomalies and they've compared the sea surface temperature anomalies now to previous years with similar sea surface temperature anomalies. And unlike the CFS version 2 model, which has flipped and flopped around a lot and changed, this hasn't changed all autumn. We've been looking at this since September. It's still the same idea with lots of blocking up over Greenland, extending out into Scandinavia as well. Loads of high pressure blocking up there with low pressure running through the mid-Atlantic on into the Mediterranean. So with that, you're bringing down lots of northerly and northeasterly influences out of the Arctic into the mid-latitudes. It's a classic negative NAO signal event. It's a complete reversal of what the CFS version 2 model is seeing. So it's interesting that the United States generic model, CFS version 2, is going for a westerly zonal winter, whereas Hugues van den Duve, looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies, is going for completely the opposite to that. Temperature forecast for the winter, well, it's colder than average there for virtually the whole of Eurasia, in those blue colours. British Isles is just over here on the very edge of the map, as it always is with these seasonal model maps, and we're in the white colours, which indicates average temperatures. Now that's because we're on the very edge of Europe, next to the warm ocean. Notice all this red, by the way, up over Greenland. That's where all the blocking is. But with so much blocking, I find it inconceivable with that 500 millibar height anomaly that we wouldn't get this cold air pushing into the British Isles. So, although it's showing white, which is average, I would suspect this is a colder than average winter. If that 500 millibar height anomaly proves correct and comes off, that is a colder than average winter from Hugues van den Duve. I've no doubt about that. The precipitation anomaly, again, not a very strong signal for Europe, although we have got this little bit of yellow here to the northwest of Scotland and over parts of Norway. So that's drier than average, and of course you would expect it to be drier than average, really, with the Atlantic being blocked by all the northern blocking. You would expect northern and western parts of Europe to be drier than average, and that's what it's going for. But the main thing to take from Hugo van der Duwe is all of the blocking up over Greenland. It's in complete contrast, actually, to the CFS version 2 model, with some support from NASA, but the NASA model is nowhere near as extensive with the blocking as Hugo van der Duwe. So a mixed bag, really, from the United States products. We're going to go on to Brazil now. This is a long-range forecasting model from Brazil. These are 500 millibar height anomalies. Different with this to most 500 millibar heights in that the blue colours here are going for above average heights with the, well, we haven't got any on this map actually, but if we had orange and red colours, they would be below average heights. Normally it's the other way round, actually, with 500 millibar height anomaly charts. Anyway, what this model is going for, the Brazilian model, is lots of high pressure across much of Europe, actually, in these blue colours, even extending out to Britain and Ireland. We're still just about under above average heights, but the extent or the core of the high pressure is across eastern parts of Europe and into western Russia. We've got this deepest of the blue going to purple curve. So that's lots of blocking there from Siberia going into eastern parts of Europe and Russia. Now, the thing with this is that this could be very cold, because we could bring in easterly winds like that if the blocking is strong enough. Conversely, if we've got a deep trough of low pressure in the Atlantic, and I suspect we have, then between the low and the high, we could bring up quite a lot of southerly or southeasterly influence. So it's hard to say quite what would happen if that 500 millibar height anomaly came off from the Brazilian model, but nevertheless, it's interesting that it's seeing all of that blocking to the east and the northeast of Europe. The temperature forecast actually from the Brazilian model is for a warmer than average winter across the whole of Europe, but I think that's wrong. Somewhere with that extent of blocking is going to get very, very cold this winter, and I don't particularly rate the temperature and precipitation forecast of seasonal models, as you probably know if you watch these videos regularly. So it's the heights that we have to look at, and the heights they're definitely going excuse me, for lots of high pressure influences to the east and the northeast of Europe. Quite interesting trends. The next model is the JMA model, the Japanese, and we're looking at sea level pressure anomaly for December. This is broken down into monthly periods. And for December, there's the British Isles just there, or upside down on these charts, but that's the British Isles just there. It's seeing below average heights for December. That would be an unsettled month, and quite westerly, so probably not all that cold, to be honest. Go through to the second month, which takes us through to January. Then the model is seeing quite a big flip around. We get the yellow colours replacing the blue colours. That's high pressure building in across the country. That could be quite cold. That high pressure is standing quite a long way east, so I think that could be a cold month in January from the JMA. And finally going through to February, the sea level pressure anomaly is showing high pressure to be sitting still around the British Isles, but it's more to the south and southwest of the British Isles, actually, there. We're starting to run the jet stream through, so that's probably a more unsettled, excuse me, slightly milder, slightly less cold sort of month, but still with a lot of anticyclonic influences. So quite interesting from the JMA. It's seeing an unsettled December, but a settled January, and probably quite a cold January, and then February is somewhere in between, but probably less cold than January. Have a look at the Korean model. Now, this is for the next month. This is the forecast from the Korean model for the next month. I can't show you the actual winter forecast yet from the Korean model because it doesn't go out to February. So what I'm going to do is just show you a snapshot. This is broken down into 10-day periods. We're starting in the middle of December, we're going through to late December, and then we're going to finish in early January, just to show you what it's going for as we move towards the middle of winter. This isn't really part of the winter forecast, but I thought I'd throw this in anyway if we've got time. For the middle of December, it's seeing below average heights, low pressure out to the west and the southwest. This very extensive area of above average heights to the east and the northeast. So we've got a proper battle probably going on there, with westerly winds trying to come in off the Atlantic, colder east or southeasterly winds trying to come in around that ridge of high pressure to the east and the northeast. That could produce some snow and wintry conditions if that's right. So if you go through to late December, which I would assume is taking us from around the 20th of December to New Year's Eve, then we find the ridge building in very strongly, a very widespread ridge. Look at that, it stretches from Canada through the Atlantic into Europe and on into western parts of Russia, an incredibly extensive ridge. But what's important is that the British Isles were underneath that core of the ridge, so it's probably very dry but very cold and frosty, if that's right, going through the latter stages of December. But then this is what I really wanted to show. This is for early January, presumably going from the 1st to the 10th of January, something like that. And then, look at this, the below average heights are digging in across Spain and into central parts of the Mediterranean, also out in the Atlantic. But notice this big area of above average heights to the north of Scotland going up to Iceland, more below average heights, a trough of low pressure digging into the north of Scandinavia. So what's going on there is that we've got the ridge to the north blocking, we've got low pressure undercutting from the south, and no doubt we're bringing in some very cold northeasterly or easterly winds, and as this trough tries to come up against that cold air, that is definitely a signal for snow there in early January. That could be a really cold and wintry start to the new year if that is right. So this isn't really part of the seasonal models actually, but I thought I'd throw it in because it is very interesting what it's seeing there as we move through to January. The Beijing Climate Centre, sorry I had a bit of mental block there, Beijing Climate Centre next. These are 500 millibar heights for the winter. Seeing a lot of blocking there up over Greenland and going out to Scandinavia as well. We've got those orange colours, so lots of blocking there. We've got the trough underneath it in the mid-Atlantic, so that's almost a very, very good signal for a cold block winter. But there's just one fly in the ointment. It's a ridge of high pressure sitting to the south across Spain and Portugal going into central parts of the Mediterranean. That's the fly in the ointment because it's probably producing a lot of southwesterly flows actually across the country into Europe. We're almost in a very cold pattern, but just that ridge there through the central part of the Mediterranean down to Spain and Portugal is spoiling it. So that's not quite so good if you're looking for a cold winter, and actually the Beijing Climate Centre is seeing a mild winter here above average temperatures in those orange colours for the winter. It's hardly surprised with that 500 millibar height anomaly. The precipitation forecast for the winter is that it's going for a wetter than average winter actually, with those blue colours there. Not surprised because we've got the trough of low pressure, and actually with this 500 millibar height anomaly we're probably running the jet stream directly through, sorry I'll just highlight it, we're probably running the jet stream directly through the British Isles like that, so that's why it's a wetter than average winter. It's almost very, very close to a cold winter that with all that blocking, but it's just not quite right. But what I would say about that is with such an extent of blocking over the northern latitudes, there would almost certainly be the prospect of some cold snaps, and if that ridge building through Spain into the central Mediterranean is weaker than the model is seeing, then I think we would be in for it with all that blocking up to the north. So a bit in between, I think, from the Beijing Climate Centre. JAMSTEC IOD model next, and here we go. We're looking at the temperature forecast for the winter, and a big flip around this on the last few updates because it's seeing a mild winter there across most of Europe in those salmon pink colours. That is a mild winter. There's the British Isles just there, and actually Britain and Ireland is the coldest part of Europe in terms of the anomaly. So we're actually coming out very close, or maybe even very slightly below average, but most of Europe above average. Now what's interesting about this, I don't normally do this, is that there is an extensive write-up that goes with this that you can see on the JAMSTEC website, and they've sort of caveated this a lot, this temperature forecast, because they're saying that whilst the model is seeing a mild December, it's also seeing a mild December for Europe, I should say. It's also seeing a very cold January for most of Europe, Russia, Asia, Japan, and Northern America. So virtually the whole of the northern, mid-northern latitudes, it's seeing a very cold January. So it's interesting that Jamstech have seen fit to sort of caveat this forecast. They don't normally do that, and I think we do have to treat this with a bit of pinch of salt, to be honest, because maybe the extensive warmth in December is skewing the anomaly, but they are very keen to point out that the model is predicting a really cold January for most of Northern Europe, despite this temperature anomaly showing very mild for the winter. In terms of the precipitation forecast for the winter, well, it's near normal to maybe slightly above average, actually, in terms of the British Isles. We've got those green colours around the coast, so near normal to slightly above average precipitation. But we've got the coolest anomaly from Jamstech of the whole of Europe. Not cold, but closest to the average. And again, there's that big caveat that they're throwing in about how cold it gets from January. A complete flip, they're saying, from December to January. Finally, we're at the end now, so if you've been struggling to stay with it, yep, we're nearly there now. Just the final model to come from our very own UK Met Office, and this is sea level pressure for the winter, and it's seeing a lot of high pressure here around British Isles, extending out into central and northeastern parts of Europe as well. So in those red colours across Britain, they extend up to Scandinavia and go to Germany as well. Lots of high pressure, lots of blocking, not particularly northern latitude blocking, I don't think, but lots of high pressure. That would be a cold signal if that's right. Indeed, the model is seeing the green colours across the British Isles. There we are. In those green colours, so colder than average winter is being predicted by the UK Met Office. Not desperately cold, only up to 0.5 below average, but still, nevertheless, we are on the colder side of normal from UK Met Office. And in terms of the precipitation anomaly, there we go. Hardly surprising, it's seeing a drier than average winter, and it's to be expected, of course, those yellow colours there and orange, because it's seeing a very high pressure anticyclonic dominated winter. So a real mixed bag there. Sorry, what have I done there? Get rid of that. There we go. A real mixed bag there, and it's what I was expecting. I've been saying all the way along, this winter is a very hard one to call. It remains a very hard one to call, and I was expecting to see a big split in the models. No real agreement from the models. It's been an ongoing pattern through the autumn. The final update still shows no real agreement. We've got some models in there that are definitely going for a colder than average winter, particularly Hugues van den Dul, and our very own UK Met Office probably as well. Some that are going for a milder than average winter, most definitely CFS version 2, particularly in mild bracket, and probably Beijing Climate Centre. But even ones that are going mild, like Beijing Climate Centre, there is enough in there to sort of raise doubts, because even on that model there's a lot of northern blocking. It's just things aren't quite right. So as ever, it remains a very, very difficult winter to call. All of this will help to build up the picture for next week's final forecast, but it's not that much of a help, I've got to be honest. And next week I'm going to have to come to a conclusion about what I think is going to happen, and it's one I'm struggling with. But I will issue the forecast next week, so come back to that. It's going to be very, very interesting. Be a big day next Sunday, the 1st of December, forecastwebviz.com, when the winter forecast is issued. But in summary, the final winter 13-14 seasonal model roundup is seeing no real agreement amongst the models. There are some that are most definitely going for a colder than average winter still, some that are going for a milder than average winter, and some that are in between and could really go either way. So no agreement. That's it for now. Hope you found the video interesting. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.